Hello, this is Jay from Cucumber Shop, and today I'm just going to show you a little bit about how I selected a specific cucumber variety and how you can possibly select a certain vegetable as well. Um, the variety that I selected is called this Checkered Scopattizo Barice or Checkered Carosello Scopattizo Barice. And so we'll just get started. My name is Jay, and I run a little seed business called Cucumber Shop. So the part one is talking about how I encountered this variety and how I selected it for its checkered quality. So here you see some pictures here. This variety on the left was what I started with, what I saw, and what I recognized could turn into something like the variety on the right because of some of my previous experience. I recognized that this one on the left had a checkered quality to it that wasn't just in the stripes itself, but it could be kind of all over the fruit. So just like on the right hand side, and because it had those qualities, I felt that it was something that I could definitely select for. I also like the tender texture of the one on the left. So that's what I've worked to be able to select for. So in 2018 was when I first identified this variety, and it only had a little bit of checkering at the time. There were other off-type varieties from the same seed, but this specific variety, fruit had the right kind of checkering. So I selfed the seed, which means I took male flowers from that plant, and I use that male flower to pollinate the female flower to make the fruit that you see, this checkered fruit. That was the first generation in 2018. In 2020, when I started out and the plant started growing the male flowers, I noticed that the male flowers had a high percentage of deformed flowers. Probably because I self-pollinated the plant earlier, and probably because of inbreeding depression from that 1-to-1 ratio. Normally, melons aren't really big at having inbreeding depression problems, but in this case, I had deformed male flowers. So I just kept pulling those in. Eventually, I got regular good flowers, but the genetic mutation was selected out naturally because bees couldn't pollinate those flowers because the petals would keep the bees from being able to get into those odd shaped flowers. And here's some pictures of some. There's also a female flower that was misshapen, so I just pulled that one as well. So in 2020, after picking all those flowers off and I had the regular flowers, I was able to select much lighter checkered variety, much more consistent checkered, and I was able to select for that nice cylindrical shape that you see here. And there were some off types as well. So I had some dark ones as well that were not like the checkered ones at all. And so this required for me to figure out how to make sure to continue to select for the checkered variety and not for the dark one. And so what I use is kind of this targeting method. In this picture you see near the center are the best fruit, around the center are the better, and near the edges are the okay. So really you're looking to find where are the fruit that you don't want, and that's kind of on the outer periphery of this chart. It's not always going to be in your case. It could be on one side of the garden or the other. But the fruit that you want the most, that are the most typical of what you're looking for, that's especially when you have cross-pollinating plants, that's what you want to kind of select for, is try to get to that best zone, that zone where there's a lot of fruit that consistently gives you what you are looking for, and then select for that. So throughout the process, I would label the fruit its most desirable picking stage. Not when the fruit gets older, but right when you want to pick it to eat. That's when you want to figure out which fruit is the best. So I would label those as best, and then the ones that are almost as good as the best ones, I would label as better. And then I would just label those two. I would keep them, and then when it came time to pick them, I picked them off, and then when it came time to save them for seed, I would keep them all together, all the best ones together with the best ones, all the better ones with the better ones. If the best fruit didn't produce high quality seed, then I had seed of the better fruit for my future grow outs. So that's kind of how I do it. I call this my targeting, or my target selection method. And this is it in, that was in Italian. So in 2022, so 2 years later, I grew out a whole lot more vines that were a lot more consistent. Out of about 20 vines, I had 2 produce fruit that had incorrect coloring. I was able to pull one of them right away before the female flower really cross-pollinated, and I was able to pull that plant. And then if you see here from left to right, the top right one, I have a little circle around that one. That one fruit ended up looking like it was checkered, but I found out it was only half checkered and half dark. So as soon as I found that out, I pulled that one. But here's some examples of this checkered coloring that I was able to get. Cylindrical shape. The only thing that variable I'm continuing to work on is the length. They tend to be longer when trellised and a little shorter when grown on the ground. A little more consistent length is what I'd like to try to get at if I can. So I could call this just about anything. I could name this variety after me, this checkered cucumber melon variety, but I am naming this Checkered Scopattizo Berise. And so here's why. Characteristics of a Scopattizo Berise are that it has a cylindrical shape with these really nice scalloped edges, and it has these dark pores that make the fruit look somewhat between light and dark, somewhere like half dark, and it's kind of consistent over the whole course of the fruit. So that's what you would generally think of as Scopattizo Berise. Additionally, there are some internal characteristics as the fruit gets older that can help you determine that it's a Scopattizo Berise. In my very first generation in 2018, I planted this same seed, and here on the left, you can see the seed turned in, the fruit was like this, and it turned out like that. That's a regular Scopattizo Berise. And on the right, the coloring's different, but we still have that same kind of scalloped shape and a lot of the same texture as well. And so I would say from the same seed, I'm probably getting a Scopattizo Berise with different coloring. And in 2020, when I grew this out again, I had some darker Scopattizo Berise. I had one that was probably about half light dark, but I didn't save pictures of that one. And then I had more that were checkered like this. As they get a little older, the checkered ones can get a little darker as you're getting to saving seed. And then on my third year, I had some that were just those 2 that I mentioned. And here's a picture of on the left with, it's a little darker there. And as I rotate it, you can see it's half light, half dark. Rotating a little more, you can see the checkered on the other side. So here we have the deep furrowed scalloped ridges, just like a regular Scopattizo Barice, very typical. And if you see here, same scalloped ridges. This is a Scopattizo Barice, half light, half dark, those little kind of dark pores making it half light, half dark, cylindrical scallop shape. And here's what a mature regular Scopattizo Barice fruit looks like. On the inside, they get a little darker on the inside, but the seeds stay connected to the internal, I don't know what to call it, um, not flesh, but that inner core seed cavity, the pulp. And so we have the pulp and the seeds all connected together, and that kind of adheres together. So if you just barely scoop that a little bit on one side, the whole thing slips out. So the whole the whole seed, all the seeds and the pulp slip right out and go into, your colander or whatever. And so that kind of easily slipping out of the whole membrane there that holds the seeds together is very typical of the Scopattizo Barice. A more extreme example here is that internal membrane, easily detaching from the fruit, but adhering to the seed. And here, in this case, we have an example of this where it's so extreme that the whole internal membrane kind of stayed stuck together, kind of looked like a slug, kind of weird, but here's the seed of that. That's Scopattizo Barice. And then here is another example. This is from my checkered Scopattizo Barice. Here you see on the left that membrane staying stuck to the seeds, and then those seeds, after pulling them free from the membrane stays connected together, and you still have that kind of slipping out of the fruit cavity. And then on the right, that's what a regular Scopattizo Barice would look at like at the point of saving seeds. So very, very much like a regular Scopattizo Barice. So just kind of hit home the genetic variation here. I grew out a variety called it's a Turkish variety of Cucumis mellow that's grown in maturity like cucumber, just like Carosello. And this Turkish variety has color somewhat between light and dark. It's called the acerbatum. It expresses color in one of two ways. It either expresses it in that uniform color with those dark kind of pores, or it has a lighter color with dark splotching, similar to that checkering that we saw in the checkered Scopattizo Barice. So it's neither completely light nor dark, similar to the checkered Scopattizo Barice. So just going back, I wanted to encourage you, if you would ever like to select for a cucumber or whatever variety of a vegetable, to definitely try it. In this instance, I had a 90% correct variety that I was selecting for within by the third generation, which is kind of unheard of if you're trying to do a hybrid or something like that, where you're taking two different varieties and putting them together to get that kind of percentage in by the third generation. So I'm very fortunate about that. And this is kind of the little bit of background as to why I'm calling this a checkered Scopattizo Barice. I really hope you enjoy it, and I hope that I can encourage you to seed save. This is Jay from Cucumber Shop. I hope you enjoyed, and happy gardening.